Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of The Left Wing. I am TJ Whitehead, powers taken, not given, joined as always by John Cooper of Counterpoint Politics. How are you doing today, my friend?
It has been a fun day on the internet and in the political realm, if you ask me, with the Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz interview dropping. I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen a lot of the clips. Just fun in so many ways. A surprising amount of fun being had in the midst of a potential war with Iran. I don't know. How are you doing, TJ?
Oh man, been a rough day. I've no one wants to hear that, but it's been kind of tiring and exhausting. But I have gained a little bit of I guess Schadenfreude is the word I'm looking for. Watching
That is
Ted.
the exact word, TJ. That is the perfect time to use that word.
Yeah. It's like Ted Cruz is an abominable, terrible person. I wish nothing but bad things on him for the rest of his life. I can say the same for Tucker Carlson, but it's good to see, like, you ever when you play sports and there's someone on the other team who's just a prick, just a bad player, just an awful person, and you're like, God, that guy is such a dick, but I wish he was on my team. And watching Tucker Carlson made me think, there are a lot of great uses for an honest to God sociopath that could really help you out in your political journey and doing this gig. I it's too bad we don't got one of them.
TJ, I am back. I just lost internet for a second there. We're all struggling today.
Whew.
TJ, I swear to God, two of the things that I was going to say about that entire interview was A, Schadenfreude, or however the fuck you pronounce that word. I wasn't actually going to say it because I can never pronounce it right, but I'm glad you did. But that immediately came to mind, and also the dirty player on the opposing team. Like that, it's such an obvious comparison. The whole time I'm just like, wow, this feels awesome. I understand why the conservatives were addicted to this for so long. He's just using every dirty trick in the book, and also good ones, by the way. Like,
yes,
he did a better job of holding a Republican politician's feet to the fire than any media pundit on any mainstream news channel I've ever seen. Like that was just textbook annihilation, and a lot of dirty tricks being played too. Don't get me wrong. He did him dirty several times, and I'm sure we can play some clips to talk about it. But it was so much fun to watch. I'm so glad he's not on our team. Let's not go that far. But
yeah,
I'm so glad to at least watch a game where I get to root for him.
Yeah, that's actually the most disturbing part of all this. That you're telling me it took Tucker Carlson to do something like this, when like this could have happened at any time for any, like, name your issue, for the caustic and vitriolic right wing who always plays by their own rules. Right wing conservative politics is nothing but spite, rage, anger. And watch 5 minutes of Nancy Mace talking. All it is just being a bully to the weakest members of society. And still, whenever they appear, the media has to treat them with respect and gravitas and act like they're functioning, important members of society who should be given all due deference for their power and privilege and position. No, treat them like children, make fun of them, degrade them, call them out of their nonsense, use dirty tricks if you have to. It's worth it. And I don't know, like Tucker Carlson doing it. Oh, I will say one thing. I hadn't watched the whole interview either, but I feel like I have. I've watched probably 10 minutes of clips from it. They're all solid gold, by the way. Have yet to see a bad one.
And they're so good. Like, we spend this whole show just watching clips from the interview.
And I hate this, by the way. I hate glazing Tucker Carlson. I fucking hate it, right? It's just, but someone give me something, right? And it's that I watched this and I thought, Tucker Carlson may very well be the next president of the United States. I was watching that. I hate to say it, man. But as I'm watching it, I was like, first, he's very good at the game. I've never doubted that. I've always said Tucker Carlson's been great at this. But now he can take not sole possession, but definitely a large chunk of the moral high ground of, oh, I actually am against war. He's probably not, but just saying, oh, I actually am against war. He's just anti-Semitic. But, he can stake his claim right there when all the other Republicans are scrambling and trying to, like Cruz and Lindsey Graham, of trying to suck Trump's dick. And other ones are kind of, trying to test the water. Say, nope, I'm planting the flag here. I'm against war. These sound bites are going to age very well.
Yeah, so Tucker Carlson, this whole interview, do you remember that clip of Crossfire back in I
Mhm.
don't know 05 or whatever, with Jon Stewart when he gets on the show, and just calls him out to his face. What you're doing right now is bad for America. You're better than this, and I know it. And Tucker can't fight back on him because he knows that John is telling the truth. And that was so clear and evident today in this interview, where it's like, yeah, this entire time Tucker has had all the chops. Like he's always had it. And you said he's just anti-Semitic. I honestly don't know. I don't know. It's very hard to know what Tucker Carlson's actual positions are. But I know he's a conservative in this general sense. He's certainly a silver platter rich boy, but I don't know what he actually stands for. So as much as I would not want to see him be the president of the United States, I would be quite interested in seeing him running for president of the United States and seeing what that does to the conservative primary that's coming hopefully at some point. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't know. What do you think, TJ? Would you, if him versus take your field of Republican candidates,
Yeah,
would he be your favorite?
That's what I was. Yeah, that's what I flashed before my eyes as I saw this, because his competition would be people like Ted Cruz. He'd eat them alive. He'd destroy them. He'd murder them. And Cruz has nowhere to run. He's going to act just like he acted on the stage during that interview, cowering and running and equivocating, stuff that actually works when you're talking to most media figures who just move on to the next question or who will bow to the outrage. Tucker doesn't have to. He can, and once again, there's nothing worse than I always refer to President Woodrow Wilson as a racist if he was smart. That's President Woodrow Wilson. And the evil that you can get done when you are an actual intelligent racist. That's Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson, he's not going to fall for. He can. You know what? He can present an air of intellectualism to this rabid, disgusting, sociopathic movement, which does terrify me. That's way worse than anything Trump could have done, because he can still do the whole, he does the trolling and, oh, look how based I am. Watch how I'm owning the libs. It's the same shit that they eat alive. And he can, form an actual sentence. That's, that was in the back of my mind watching this. I was like, oh, I hope Tucker Carlson doesn't go into this because he'd be great at it.
It's a lot of the same things we say about JD Vance would also apply to Tucker Carlson, where it would be an actual intelligent person pushing forward the agenda. The only difference I would say is that I don't know how evil Tucker Carlson is. I don't know how much of the Kool-Aid he drinks. You think he's particularly evil?
Oh God.
I think he's I've never got, I'll put it this way. I have always gotten the impression from Tucker Carlson that he's a man who takes great pride in doing his job, and his job has been to be evil. But I don't know if the evil's in his heart in the same way of a Stephen Miller or a JD Vance. Donald Trump is Donald Trump. I wouldn't say he's evil. He does evil shit all the time. He's just infinitely self-serving, which I think is a different thing than evil. If you were to look at Donald Trump versus Stephen Miller is the devil incarnate. He likes inflicting pain on people for the sake of inflicting pain on people. Donald Trump just likes to serve himself. And I've said this many times, I would always rather have the guy that's always going to serve themselves than the guy who truly wants to hurt other people, because at least I can work with the first guy. And I feel like that's where Tucker Carlson is, or at least more towards that side of the spectrum. But again, I could be wrong, because he's always just played whatever worked for the audience. I don't know what his actual positions are on much of anything.
I would lean more. I agree with you that Trump is self-interested more than anything else. I think that Trump could have ended up anywhere, and he picked the lane that he thought was most beneficial to him. I think in his heart, he's almost certainly a racist, but what 80-year-old white guy isn't? So, I mean, that's not, out of the ordinary, but his special brand of vitriol and pride and resistance to shame has caused him to cause all this damage. Tucker, on the other hand, I would lean more towards evil with Tucker, because Tucker goes out of his way to do stuff he doesn't have. He has weird obsessions that only white supremacists have, talking about Rhodesia and Zimbabwe. That is deep down the rabbit hole of white supremacy. No one's making him do that. Whenever, I don't know if you saw that clip where he talks about segregation, and he says segregation was the worst thing that's ever happened in the world or in the United States, or when he's just makes offhand comments. That's the thing. It's like when he's doing interviews or his show. I don't know if you saw that clip where he talked about India and how India essentially had no culture until the British got there, so they should be happy about the colonization. I mean, it's stuff more than his. And even when he got fired from Fox, like the one principled stance Tucker took, well, he didn't even take the principled stance. Actually, I take that back. He just talked behind everyone's back saying, yeah, this stuff about the election being stolen is obviously bullshit. Trump's a demon. This guy is awful. He's going to tear us all down. And he lied anyway. And then he got kicked off Fox. He had the opportunity to be a normal reporter. He always had it. I mean, he kind of was before at CNBC or MSNBC, sorry. Mm-hmm. And then, about Bill O'Reilly. I don't know if you ever heard this, but Tucker Carlson, when he was at MSNBC, he had this interview where they asked him about Bill O'Reilly, who was the biggest news broadcaster in the country at the time. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, Bill O'Reilly puts on this show of being this hard scrabble working class guy. That's not who he is. That's just the character he plays. Any hard scrabble working class guy could never end up like Bill O'Reilly. It would create an entirely different personality type. But you fake being someone to make it. I think Tucker didn't have to fake someone. I think he was faking someone at that time when he was at MSNBC. He's like, actually, I'm just gonna drop this all. And he applied for the CIA when he was like 18. They rejected him. Yeah, that's.
I think that I was probably a little bit underestimating the racism, because you're right. He does play
genuine racist,
genuine racism. Not just the play it up for the crowd stuff, but you can tell there's genuinely deep held beliefs there. I think I might have just not been thinking about it as much because it's so commonplace on the right now. But yeah, you're right. He does have those particular, you study this shit. You've been in debates and back rooms off the show that we know the types of people who bring up these topics, and
exactly.
Every single one of them is a white supremacist, and you're very correct about that. Do we want to get into some clips here?
Hell yes.
All right. So I don't even know I don't know which one this is.
All right, let's go. They're all great.
They're all so good. This is the first. I think this is the clip that came out yesterday that teased it. Which, by the way, usually when a clip comes out from an interview where you're teasing something, it's like the best part of the interview. That has not been the case.
No.
It's been fire so far. But anyway, we're gonna play this. You can see it, right?
No,
I
can't. There you go.
I'll zoom in as well.
Okay, here we go.
Around memorizing population tables.
You got to
looking around, by the way.
I don't know the population
at all.
You got to mute your mic, John.
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people living around?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
They're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that,
we're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was
right with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel. High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's so great, man. That is so great.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
That's exactly what I mean by playing a dirty trick.
Yep.
But also being incredibly good.
Yes.
Because the whole what was the exact population and percent of Shia Muslims? How do you not know this? That's a dirty trick. He researched that. That was a set trap. He had those numbers locked and ready to go. You can tell he's just like 92. I know. It's like it was locked and ready to go for him. And I agree with Ted Cruz here. He doesn't need to know the exact ethnic makeup of Iran to like understand, geopolitical realities of the situation. But it makes him look bad. And it frustrated him. And it's exactly what Tucker did. And he knew if he got him flustered, he'd be able to get him to say shit that they always say, like we, when talking about Israel and America. Like Donald Trump has been doing regularly, saying we. But the official position of the U.S. government has been not we. And it has been this very confusing thing that doesn't make any sense. And no reporter out there is holding anyone's feet to the fire to clearly define what the fuck they mean by we. And that was all prepared. If anyone is watching this thinking, oh, what a happy coincidence that like Ted Cruz fell into that hole. Oh no, that was a well-laid trap that was conceived before they sat down in those chairs. And I just have to tip my cap to Tucker Carlson, the combination of preparation and just shameless fucking, I don't even know, that's just a bad faith interview right there, but just nailing it immediately after. It's just, you gotta tip your cap, TJ. That was so impressive.
It was. As someone who's done interviews and everything, you will ask a question and you can predict their answer, even if it's 2 or 3 answers, and then you kind of route your contingencies based upon those answers. And Tucker did his homework. Gotta admit, he did his homework. He was ready, because even if Ted Cruz happened to know there were 92 million people in Iran, good chance he didn't know. Asking him, this is actually what I wrote down the first, is he asked him, hey, what's the ethnic mix of the Iranian population? And the answer Cruz gave was actually a really good one. The answer he said was, it is a Persian nation, predominantly Shia Muslim, but those weren't percentages.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It's true. It's 100% true, but there are no percentages in there, because why would he know that? Like, who would know the actual? And I guarantee if he happened to know the actual ethnic mix of there, he would have asked another question, like, when were the exact borders drawn on this nation? Like, you could trap him anywhere. Like, somewhere along the line, you would actually get him, and then you get him flustered. And I don't know where that was in the interview. I don't know if Ted Cruz knew it was going to be a hostile interview at that point or not. I don't know if that's, because that's even better. If he did it right off the bat when Ted Cruz wasn't expecting it, because, I mean, Tucker Carlson was in friendly territory, right? And that was kind of crazy. And then he immediately goes into, this is where Tucker Carlson is great at being just a prick, being an asshole, being a terrible person. Like, because Ted Cruz didn't know the exact ethnic mix of Iran, he asked him, he says, you don't know anything about Iran. And he gets to me, and then Ted Cruz acts like a third grader. And no, you don't know anything about Iran. I was like, oh, that's when I knew it was over. That's when I knew, when the best answer you come up with was doing that. And then it was just this funny who's on first type of thing, where they kept going back and forth about this nonsense. And I love that Cruz was trapped when apparently he had made the postulation that the Iranian government is trying to assassinate Donald Trump. That's apparently he had made that proclamation earlier. And Tucker said, you don't actually believe that. You don't think that's true. And he says, well, why do you say that? Because you are saying you don't want the United States actively involved in this war. You just want us to support the war. If they were actually trying to assassinate the president, why wouldn't we? We just let people try to assassinate the president. It was great. It was great. Once again, I hate myself for saying this. I hate it, but it was really great. It was fantastic. But yeah, it was a dirty trick, but I applaud him. We should use more on folks like this.
And that's the thing. While Tucker is again, mastered his craft, and I don't mean that as a compliment to who Tucker is or his body of work. I mean just that he executes this at a high level. It's not actually that hard. Like what he did here, a lot of people have the chops to do what he did here. There is a lot of highly intelligent journalists and media personalities that have interviews with these people that could be doing this, and they are not. Because it's as you said, it's not like any of this was unexpected. All of this we spend countless hours thinking and talking about how all of these things are inconsistent and how to break down their arguments into little bitty pieces and blow them up into smithereens, right? It's not that hard. And these guys aren't all that intelligent. The intelligence difference between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz is quite high, if you were to ask me. It wouldn't be that hard to consistently entrap these people like this. But as you said earlier, there seems to be this rooted bias towards institutional positions where you just are supposed to respect them because they're a congressman. Doesn't matter that they are literally fucking assaulting and detaining and arresting sitting congressmen and other state representatives on a consistent basis. The media is still treating them with these kid gloves, and they should all be acting like Tucker Carlson is here. I don't know. Do you think it's only a matter of time? Like, do you think that this is a little bit of a watershed moment?
No, not at all. No.
And I'm not saying suddenly, mainstream reporters are going to be doing exactly what Tucker Carlson is here. But if this has gotten a lot of attention, you don't think that showing the teeth a little bit more in order to try and get clips like this is going to create an incentive for some people to start doing so?
No, I don't think so. This does happen every now and again where someone will get trapped and they'll flounder around a bit. That this isn't the first time this has happened to any politician on, with any ideology. But the full court press that Tucker just put on Ted Cruz, no, I don't think so. Because the reason they don't do it is because they don't want to lose access. Tucker has enough inroads. This actually, if other people did this, they would just not go on their shows, which they hate. And so, no, I don't think it. Do you think it would?
I think that once the first domino has fallen, the second one is a lot easier to knock over. And again, I don't think I'm necessarily saying it's going to happen, but I think that this makes me a lot more confident that things can, especially with all of the infighting on the right now, specifically about the Iran war, not war thing. And the budget bill. Like I think that they could start eating each other alive. I think it's going to come from the right before it comes from the left, funnily enough. But here's another question before we get. I know you have a clip load up here. What happens to Tucker now? Because that's a big part of this. If he survives, like if he's actually able to entice people to come on his show with this revision of the Crossfire personality, he could get real traction, relevance that he hasn't had since he was booted off Fox News.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's treaded water since then shows a level of tenacity and ability to survive without the access that might make him viable to continue doing this sort of thing. Do you think anyone else will ever go on his show again after this?
Yeah, and because there are some Republicans who are speaking out against this. There is a contingency of Republicans who don't think the war with Iran is a good idea. At least now. I'd like to see what happens once the bombs start dropping. That's going to be what really, separates the sheep from the goats on this one. But Tucker, if he's smart, will kind of stay in this lane and say, apparently Trump said that Tucker Carlson called him to apologize. I don't know if I believe Trump, but according to Tucker, he had talked to Trump the night before he did the interview. So I don't know. I think that he's still going to, this is also why Tucker's great. I hate it because I hate that this shit works because he does really well in that interview. This is all he did. Well, mainly what he did. He was hey, I'm just asking questions, guys. I'm just asking questions. Well, I'm just asking questions here. And it's annoying. It's obnoxious because when people say that, no, you're not. We know that's not what you're doing. But a lot of people are kind of dumb. And Tucker Carlson has that inquisitive, goofy ass voice, and he has a suit, and he's a rich white guy who's been on TV a long time. I can trust what this guy has to say. Sure, he hired a Nazi to write all of his episodes when he was at Fox News, and the Nazi got fired, and he yelled at people for being mad that he hired a Nazi and moved on with the show. We had no moment of national recognition that the #1 watched cable news show in the country was written by a Nazi. No one ever cared about that. So if that didn't topple him, why not? The only thing, like you said, the only thing that did topple him is when he no longer had the venue of Fox News, and he hasn't really been super relevant since. Doing this could at least gain him recognition. I don't know if he wants to get into politics or not. He's never seemed to have the desire to, but yeah, I think that this could definitely raise Tucker's status. I just hope he doesn't use it for more evil than he already has.
All right, what do you got loaded up here, TJ?
Okay, so this is that clip of Tucker Carlson grilling Ted Cruz. We have plenty more, folks. Don't worry. The hits are going to keep on coming. But that one was specific to the clip I'm going to show right now. This clip goes all the way back to, I don't know, probably 1990, 1991. I'm not sure which year this is. Yeah, February 1991. And this is a clip before the first Gulf War with George Bush Sr. And it features Christopher Hitchens and Charlton Heston. And Charlton Heston was a big supporter. He says, yeah, the Gulf War is a great idea. And Christopher Hitchens thinks it's a bad idea. And what Tucker did reminded me of what Christopher Hitchens did. So I want to pull up this clip and show you guys what I'm talking about. You'll recognize it, John.
Later, the Arab world will not be spoken to in that tone of voice. They will not allow the United States to determine for them their defense policies. If you're for denuclearization, there's always been the option of an international conference on the Middle East and its regional and political problems, and that is the option that President Bush steadfastly refused from August 2nd till Desert Storm began, and refuses now. This is a course of absolute folly. Let me ask a question to Mr. Heston. Can he tell me clockwise what countries have frontiers and borders with Iraq, starting from Kuwait?
Yes, indeed I can. Those borders are going to be very flexible, I think, and Iran and Iraq demonstrate that.
But
it's interesting.
Let
me come to.
It wouldn't take a minute.
Let me come to your comment. Kuwait, Bahrain, Turkey, Russia, Iran.
Exactly. You don't know where it is, in other words, do you? You have no idea where the country is on the map, and you're in favor of bombing it now rather than later on the whim of a president.
Mr. Hitchens, if I can interject, I'm not sure that the instantaneous command of the geography of the region.
Oh, I don't know. I think if you're in favor of bombing a country, you might pay it the compliment of knowing where it is. This is the sort of instantaneous barbarism upon which people like Bush trade. If you were asked to bomb Iran tomorrow, you'd do that. A year ago or two, the United States was on the side of Iraq against Iran. A few years before that, it was on the side of Iran against Iraq. Now we're fighting the Iranians' war for them. Why is this sort of public opinion so reliable?
All right. I immediately thought of that clip when I saw Tucker right there. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. Listen, if you want to criticize someone's policy on attacking a nation, please keep that in your back pocket. Ask them, I want you to name, counterclockwise, starting with this nation right here, all the nations that border this country. Go. They're not going to be able to do it. It's not going to happen. What's funny about, Hitchens mentions it later in the interview somewhere, but he thought it was funny that Heston mentioned Bahrain as a nation that borders Iraq. Bahrain's an island, so it just really made him look even dumber or whatever. But watching Tucker go to town on Carlson, on Ted Cruz like that, immediately brought me up Christopher Hitchens, and kind of made me sad that Hitchens, I don't know what, 12, 13 years later, was a huge proponent of the Iraq War. How did that happen, buddy? You know what's going on here. You opposed it the first time, but I had to play that clip. Had you seen that before, John?
I had not seen that before, but you showing it there reminded me, I'm big into football. I'm a huge football fan. And something I love is when a team runs a play and then someone clips and is like, this play was actually first ran in 1983 in the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
That's exactly what happened. Tucker out here studying film, man. He knew that too. And he's like, I'm going to do the same thing. And it worked. It worked so well. That was such a good pull, DJ.
It will work every time. It will work every single time. So, all right. Oh, I thought I had another Tucker clip saved up here, but I guess I'll go to another one. If you can pull up another Tucker clip, John, I'll go to a different one. I think
all right.
Someone commented, was it Colby? Colby says, not to distract from what Tucker Carlson and Ted said, but I believe the clip TJ posted on his story. Oh, I love the clip TJ posted on his story. I find it funny, and I'll continue giving comment bait for clip farming. Actually, I'm not sure which clip you're talking about.
It's your story, TJ.
Well, yeah, you know what? I think it was Instagram, but that's one that doesn't apply here. But there is one I wanted to share, John, if you don't mind. This isn't a Tucker one, but actually, yeah, go to the Tucker one, John. I'll wait on mine.
Okay. Yeah, we'll play it next, but I'll pull up the Tucker one here. This one, when you were talking about the just asking questions, he does that here to excellent effect. So we're gonna pop this on.
Oh, I can't hear it.
About the bridge, very weird thing. The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question: what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, like, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
you're asking the question, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have.
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran.
If I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions in a straightforward, rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me.
You just called me a sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government is run.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two. They have nothing to do with each other. I'm talking about the influence
Israel and Jews have nothing to do with each other?
All Jews, or an attack on all Jews, which I am not, nor would I ever be undertaking now. I'm not attacking anybody.
By the way, that's who Iran wants to kill, is all the Jews and all the Americans.
And I'm totally opposed to that, okay? But now, because
except you don't want to do anything about it,
decisions need to be made.
We can talk about those decisions.
And I plan to.
Good.
But I just want to get a sense of whether you think, having described yourself as an America First person whose only criterion for judgment on foreign policy is America's national interest, to what extent you're influenced by a foreign government, which gives you a lot of money through its lobby. And you're claiming this has nothing to do with the foreign government. They're not coordinating. Yes, they're spying on us, but it doesn't bother you. And I'm sort of wondering, like, what is this? This is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had.
I'll tell you what, and I'll answer any question you like, but let's try to...
Are you going to call me an anti-Semite again or no?
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little.
You're the one who went to motive. I'm asking honest questions.
I'm
just asking questions. Yes, that's it. That is what I'm doing.
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little bit. A very weird thing. The obsession with Israel...
Wow.
All right, TJ. I can't tell you how much Schadenfreude is the exact feeling that I get from watching that clip. I want to hear your thoughts first.
Shockingly bad performance by Ted Cruz right there. I'm actually disappointed that Ted Cruz. You know what? Actually, I shouldn't be surprised, because Ted Cruz uses the same playbook that he uses all the time. And this is actually not limited to Ted Cruz in any fashion. When you say, hey, the Israeli government is doing something I don't agree with, I think this is wrong, they immediately flip to the anti-Semite charge. Wow. Guess you hate the Jews, saying stuff like that. And Tucker is like, yeah, that's not going to work on me. Sorry, that's ridiculous. Plowed right through it. And that now, if this were someone on the left Cruz would have had a lot more ammo to go. It's like, oh, well, you're a communist, you're a socialist. Of course, he really didn't have anywhere to go with Tucker on this one. So he tried it. It didn't work. Tucker blew right past it. And he was kind of flummoxed. It kind of stuck. And I do appreciate highlighting how absurd this charge is. That just because I always ask people, can you tell me, do you think the Israeli government is somehow exempt from criticism? Is that what you're saying here? Like put them on the defensive here. Their answer will be no. Obviously, there's no entity, no body, no group of people on earth who are exempt from criticism. Then ask them, okay, tell me what a legitimate criticism of the current Israeli government would look like, or what it would sound like. Give me one. Like, give me one that you would not accuse of being anti-Semitic. They can't. There isn't one. Because anytime you talk about Israel overplaying its hand, killing too many people, starting unnecessary wars, dragging the United States into it, it's automatically, some sort of slight on your character and your bigotry or hatred, because they don't want to actually talk about what's actually happening, because it makes it very obvious. What do you think?
Yeah, so before I get into that specific clip, so Phoebus asked us, do you have a newfound appreciation of Tucker? And we have a couple more viewers now than we did at the beginning of the show when we went over this. We will always respect game. We have been consistent on this show the entire time. Game, respect game. We say this often about Ben Shapiro. We say this about Matt Walsh. We say this about quite a few figures where they're terrible people with terrible opinions, but they are very good at what they do. And that is what Tucker Carlson is doing here, right? We are respecting the technique that he is using to obliterate Ted Cruz. And it is very nice and fulfilling that he's obliterating one of our opponents. It very much reminds me, it is very clear to me that Tucker Carlson was using the tricks of the trade against Ted Cruz. Mm-hmm. And there was a moment in there where Ted Cruz is like, what are you doing here, bro? You're not supposed to say that criticism of Israel and criticism of Jews are two separate things. When I say you're talking about the Jews, when you mentioned Israel, like, that's the playbook. They're the same thing. We've always said this. And Tucker's like, nah, I know that you always said this. I know it's always been a lie because I've been on your side. I read from the same playbook. So I'm just going to use that against you. It's so incredible. Like all the things that we've constantly been talking about on this show, Tucker's using them there. I'm not talking about Jews. I'm talking about Israel. I'm making a clear and concise difference. The other thing he did in that clip, which I thought was stupendous, when Ted Cruz was like, you called me a sleazy feline. And he went, and then he repeated it multiple times. And each time Tucker went, you are being sleazy because you are doing this. I'm accurately describing what you are doing. I'm not just throwing out a random insult. I know that's what you're doing when you imply that I'm anti-Semitic. You're just throwing out an insult without any reasoning to back it up because that's what we do. But I don't have to do that. And it's so beautiful to watch someone who intimately understands the way that Republicans argue just dismantle them. And Ted Cruz was defenseless. He had no idea what to do with his playbook tossed back at him. Like it's all he knows how to do. And it was just marvelous to watch. And he's like, let's ratchet down the intensity. Whenever someone says that, especially when they're, I guess sometimes I've done that when someone's just yelling at me and I'm not. I'm like, yo, bro, you're yelling, I'm not. That's something that I'll do. But that was equal intensity. Yep. Tucker was matching him the whole time. In fact, Tucker was the one who was far less flustered the entire time. And Ted Cruz is the one let's ratchet down the intensity. That's basically admitting you lost. That's about as close to a surrender as you'll ever see.
The end. I have a hard time thinking of times when I've seen Ted Cruz do that. Let's dial down the rhetoric a little bit. Things are getting a little out of hand when nobody's yelling and nobody's screaming. Absolutely. It reminds me of when they start talking about AIPAC. I've got that clip loaded up second. But this one, I'll talk right here. This is my favorite one, I think. This is my actual favorite one, and you'll probably guess why just from the beginning. But here we go.
Oh, it should.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use the.
It's in Genesis, but
I fucking love that he knew where it was in the Bible. Oh my God. That was so, and you know what? Jesus Christ, I hate this so much. I feel so. Oh, I forgot to mention sleazy feline. What a weird insult. Actually, honestly, I don't know what that even means. Like, you're being a sleazy feline. I don't know why that was the one he went with, but yeah, I feel so dirty glazing Tucker Carlson like this. But the fact that he knew eventually Ted Cruz was going to say, well, the Bible says those who bless Israel shall be blessed. Those who curse Israel shall be cursed. Not only was he ready for it, but he also said, I bet he doesn't know where that is in the Bible. Because of course he doesn't. And he says, yeah, where was that? Where was that in the Bible? And he doesn't know. Oh, it's in Genesis, just so you know.
Instantaneous. And also not making a meal of it. Just, it's in Genesis. But anyway, just like, I know this better than you do. Fuck you. Like, that
super dismissive. Yes.
Brilliant.
Bravo. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going with this.
So you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. And you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker,
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this.
Yes. What an insane thing to say, right? This is a serious topic, okay? This is like actual stuff that's going to determine whether people live or die. This might redraw maps in the Middle East. This might topple the economic, social, and geopolitical structure of half the planet. And you're saying, yes, this 3,500-year-old passage written by Bronze Age warlords and goat herders who didn't know what the sun was. I'm using this to determine how we are going to shape planet fucking Earth in 2025. Yes, that's insane. The fact that Ted Cruz feels comfortable saying that out loud, even on Tucker Carlson's show, needs to be called out way more often. You should never get a moment's rest if that's where you're going with this. What do you think, John?
No, I had the same exact thought, TJ. Like, I know that this is just America and it always has been America, but the fact that like our politicians just explicitly saying the reason I'm doing this is because God told me to, and people don't look at that like, oh my God, an insane person is in power right now. I don't know how. Again, I get how like the crazy religious people see that as a good thing. I get that. But for the vast majority of Americans who are, go to church on Christmas and Easter at best, I don't understand how they actually hear that and go, that sounds like a reasonable human being talking. This guy wants to go to war because it's in the Bible that we have to support Israel. And Tucker's going to break that argument down further. And the thing that I appreciate about Tucker is like, we can make that attack, right? Like, we can be like, that's just stupid all the way. Tucker can't quite make that attack because Tucker is audience captured to some extent. He can't just go and bash Christianity. But he does an excellent job of attacking the theological reasoning without actually attacking the religion. It's actually difficult to do. Whereas some of these other things have been not lazy, clearly premeditated, but easy, low-hanging fruit. This was actually, it took some fine in-the-moment craftsmanship in order to create this line of attack, and he does it excellently.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the
God's
descendants of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elected.
He's the prime minister,
right?
What?
But just like, America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle
This is
there.
silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
You believe
Israel.
that's what God was talking about in
Yes.
Genesis.
I do, but
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now, there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70 years ago.
I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay, Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is.
All right. I just realized, listening to that right now, when he said that, is this, man, that would be a good thing. Tucker kind of dropped the ball on this, or Cruz, I guess, kind of dropped the ball on this, where he's like, well, you don't know the definition of a nation. You're telling me you don't know what Israel is? He could do the whole what is a woman thing and then switch it on Israel. He should have stuck with that. That was pretty good. But then Tucker asking him, hey, is the nation of Israel as we know it today, is that the same nation that existed in the Bible? And then he asked Cruz, so when did that nation cease to exist? I thought Tucker was going to pull out the 586 BC. I was waiting for it. It didn't happen. It's like, okay, well, I can't expect him to know everything about this and be ready for all that. But yeah, it should honestly be immediately disqualifying for someone to reference a biblical prophecy to a perhaps mythical patriarch of Abraham, where God says, I will bless the nations that bless you and curse the nations that curse you. That is insanity. It's absolutely insane. And it shouldn't take Tucker fucking Carlson for this to happen. If Ted Cruz says this on CNN, on NBC, on ABC, it should be immediately met with, that is ridiculous. What are you talking about? You're trying to say that you have some sort of access to the Almighty that I don't have? Like, what do you know about God that I don't know? And what makes you think that it's worth spending billions or trillions of dollars and costing countless lives just to get, your particular prophecy taken care of? This is insanity.
I couldn't agree more, TJ. And it isn't even a good interpretation of the Bible. Like what Tucker said there was right. Like at no point when being raised as a Catholic and reading the entire Bible and studying it and all of this stuff did I ever think that Israel, when they talked about it in the Bible, referring to the modern state of Israel. It always was clearly talking about the Jewish people. And this does kind of get into the thing we were discussing with the Zorhan question, where when they were asked him, do you believe Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state? He says, I believe Israel should exist as a state of equal rights. And they're like, those two things aren't the same. And that's kind of what Ted Cruz is doing here. Like, he's like, yeah, Israel. It's just the name of the country. If Canada changes its name to Israel, God told us to bless it. Right? Like, it makes no fucking sense. It's or at least it should be an entirely different thing now. You can't compute that Israel is this land of equality where everyone in Israel is treated equally, and also that it is the same state of the Jewish people that existed in the Bible, where every single person was Jewish and there was no non-Jewish members of the state. Like, those are two obviously separate things. And yet they try and connect them together over and over again. It's very frustrating, and it just makes me happy to see it tossed back in their faces. And you're entirely right. It's a disgrace. It is a disgrace that when a politician gets up there and uses the Bible as their reasoning for making a decision for this country, that any fucking mainstream journalist would ever accept that answer as valid in a country where we are not supposed to have a state religion. It's utterly insane.
Yeah, and we just let it bleed in all the time. I gotta be careful how I phrase this, but
no, you don't.
All right, I know a guy. I know a guy who works with rural communities here in Indiana, and a few times this guy has told me that he's gone to public meetings for small towns in Indiana, and how surprised he was to find out that a lot of these small city councils start their meetings with Pledge of Allegiance and prayer. They still do it. They still do it. And trust me, this guy was shocked. If I can track this guy down, I'll bring him on the show sometime to interview him on this stuff. But he said that, yeah, this happens all the time, and it's really bizarre to sit there and watch, because first you do the Pledge of Allegiance, which, I mean, when's the last time you did that, 4th grade or something? And now all these adults in a room saying the pledge, which already has an appeal to God right away. By the way, I do like in the pledge that you pledge allegiance to the flag first and then the country second. That's always been funny to me, that you pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, then to the Republic. That's always cracked me up. But then you say that this nation exists under the auspices of Almighty God, and then you start off with a prayer. It's really fucking weird. And I was trying to I remember seeing something like, how politicians, like pretty much every politician ends their speech with God bless you and God bless the United States of America. That wasn't always a thing. Politicians didn't start doing this until like the 30s, I think, or 40s. It was very recent. If you read speeches from the 1800s or the 1700s, it never happened. It was all around this. Honestly, it was like anti-communism. Like, well, the communists are atheists, so we believe in God and we push it forward. But my point is that it does open the window to people talking like this with no pushback. That if we start and end our political gatherings, our official business with prayers, our military opens up their sessions with prayer, and say, oh yeah, we just talk to God. Like, that's just a thing we do. Someone coming up and say, well, God says we should do this, actually works. I see why it happens, but there's no reason it should continue. We should actively shame this. And once again, this doesn't mean you can't worship God and believe whatever you want. But once you start saying publicly, yeah, God wants me to do this, God says we should all get involved in this, I think it should be met with a tiny bit of pushback, just the smallest bit. What do you think?
It's just the small. No, it should be met with a hell of a lot of.
Yes.
Again, like the idea that we are supposed to accept. Let me put it this way: it's totally okay for someone to say they want to do something because of their religious beliefs. Totally acceptable. I think you're kind of dumb, but it's acceptable for me to think that. What's unacceptable is to act on behalf of other people because of your religious beliefs. That's where it becomes a line too far. And people will say, like, people will make this argument. It's like, oh, well, he's religious, so obviously he should do that. And it's like, but he's not acting as himself. He is acting as a representative of millions of people who are not all religious. And to say that he is acting in their best interest because Genesis commanded him to bless Israel doesn't make any fucking sense, because he represents people who, at best, don't fucking believe an ounce of that bullshit, and at worst, think it's blasphemous. So I just, the fact that anyone accepts that as a reasonable response from a politician is utterly insane. It should not be allowed. It should not be allowed in public discourse. They can make all of the same decisions. They're going to. They're going to invent some reason for it. But the fact that we accept that as a reason, it blows my mind. It has for a very long time.
It really has. It's really funny. I want to move on with that, but I want to talk about this comment Kyle wrote where he says, Israel, is that IB? Israel, I believe Genesis.
It's a typo. He meant in Genesis.
Oh, Israel. In Genesis is a dude named Israel. All right, Kyle. So that's true, but I wouldn't use this argument if I were you. And I wouldn't, because the verse that says God will bless those who bless Israel and curse those who curse Israel, it doesn't actually say Israel. Like, at least the verse that people reference, it says, it's in Genesis when God is talking to Abraham. And God says, I will bless those who bless your descendants and curse those who curse your descendants. And his descendants are the Jewish people and the nation of Israel. Now, there was a guy named Israel that was Abraham's grandson, Jacob. And God changed his name from Jacob to Israel. But I wouldn't use that argument, because the promise is not made to the person Israel. It's actually made to his grandfather. Just want some real Bible nerd shit, folks. I know that's what you come here for. So I got it.
Get out of here, you Buddhist. You don't know anything about this religion.
Yeah, no, but yeah, we really should. decry this every chance we get. Because if you guys are wondering, because John, you made a good point where you said that, well, he's religious, so of course he's going to act this way, and why that should stop with you. But people would respond saying, well, then what's the difference between someone saying, I want to enact this policy on society because I think it's a good idea, and someone saying, I want to enact this policy because I think God says it's a good idea. And honestly, it's a decent question. It's a decent question. But the problem you run into when you start appealing to religion like that is you hit a stalemate. That if I say this is a good idea and John says no, I think this is a good idea, we can measure the outcomes. We can test. We can see people tried it before. We can come to a rational conclusion, determining which policy would help us out. But if I say God said to do this and John says God says to do something else, there's no discussion to be had. There's no data. There's no argument. There's no meetings. There's nothing you can do that's going to trump what God says. And that's the problem. That's why you can't appeal to religion, because it doesn't get you anywhere.
When people talk about like morality, we're getting into our philosophical bag here. But when people talk about like objective morality, and they're like, how do you know what's right and wrong if there is no objective morality? It's like, because I reasoned it out. Because it's our responsibility as humans to try and figure out for ourselves what is right and wrong. And then if we want to convince others to take action based on what is right and wrong, we have a collective means of coming to an agreement on that. We can talk about the benefits, the costs, the harm done, the treasure gained, whatever it might be. If we're talking about equal things, we can have a conversation about it and we can come to an agreement. Or at the very least, we can have some sort of democratic consensus about what the best path forward is. We'll never all agree on everything in the world, but at least we can demonstrate why we believe the things that we do. Whereas when it's religion, you can't do that. It's just, well, my God said this, my God said this. Fuck, let's go to war. That's exactly it. We can't come to a democratic consensus if your reasoning for doing something is because God told me to. And that's why I think no country should have any sort of fucking religion attached to it, because the state should be entirely separate from the church. You should not take actions on behalf of other people, which, by the way, your vote is on behalf of other fucking people. You shouldn't vote for what's best interest of you or your fucking religion, because whatever. That's also debatable, but like, that's what I believe. But like, yeah, you should never, any political sense, you should not be making decisions on behalf of other people because God told you to. That's just fucking dumb. That doesn't make any sense. It's antithetical to the concept of democracy.
True. Also, I do like when they pull out that argument that you mentioned earlier, John, where they say, if morality is objective, and if you have no objective standard of morality, you actually can't form a proper society. Folks, if you ever run across this, and you will if you have these conversations long enough, just ask them what makes their morality objective. Like what? Like, please tell me. Like, ask them what objective fucking means. Ask them what is the actual definition of objective. And objective basically means a conclusion that is reached without the influence of a person. That's pretty much what it comes to. You have objects and you have subjects. So your morality comes from who? God. Is God a person or not? Really? I mean, not a trick question. Like, is God a person or is God not a person? He's a person, then he's a subject. If God decides what's right and what's wrong, that morality is subjective. Not only is it subjective at that level, it's subjective on your fucking level, because you could have chosen any set of morality to go by, right? No, you weren't born knowing the laws of the Bible. You fucking chose it. You could have chose something else. So the fact that you've picked it and you say that this is morality doesn't make it objective. It doesn't make any sense, but they say it all the time. Like it's like an actual cogent argument. It drives me insane.
I love that we're getting into this, TJ, because it's one step further. The fact that we even accept I'm doing this because of this religion, as like, okay, I'm going to be very careful with what I say here.
Since when?
Religion needs to be a protected class because of all of the atrocities and oppression inflicted upon groups of religious people throughout history. It just needs to be a protected class. However, that does not mean it is the same fucking thing as being black or being gay or being a woman or being whatever. Those are all things you don't have a choice in. You don't have a choice what your race is. You don't have a choice what your sex is. You don't have a choice what your gender is. You don't have a choice what your sexuality is. All of those things you do not have a choice in. You have a choice in maybe how you present that thing, but you deep down you cannot choose to be gay or straight if you are gay. You cannot choose to be white if you are black, right? That's not the fucking case with religion. Religion is a choice that people make every day of their lives. They decide, I'm waking up today, I'm going to be Christian. I'm going to be Jewish. I'm going to be Muslim. Because I think that's what is right. I don't have to treat that like an innate quality of themselves. I can treat that like a choice they're making. If they believe that I'm going to burn in hell for all eternity, and they're making the choice to worship the God who is going to make me burn in hell for all eternity, that should be deeply offensive to me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't treat it that way because I'll sound like a crazy person in this world. But it's the fucking truth.
It is.
Every person who believes in Christianity, at least the one I was fucking taught in Catholicism, believes that I am going to burn in hell for all eternity, that God is going to torture me for the rest of time. And they choose to worship that God as an all-good being, meaning that they think that me being tortured for eternity is a good thing. And I'm just supposed to act like that's perfectly normal. And it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah. Like someone came, basically people are coming up saying, listen, God is real. So are demons. So is heaven. So is hell. I have a personal relationship with the creator of the universe. Don't mind me. I am but his humble servant. And he has told me that if you don't do what I say, you will burn in agony for eternity and you'll have it coming. You deserve it. And if we say, that's nonsense, that's ridiculous, maybe you should shut the fuck up, we're the assholes somehow. Somehow we're the bad people in this situation for saying, yeah, that Bronze Age nonsense is ridiculous. And like the average person in society will say, wow, come on, tone it down. And by the way, I saw the comment. Where did I see this comment a while back? Where was it? Oh, here it is. Phoebus says, I like Christian morality a lot better than atheistic morality, to be honest. Think you can make that argument on utilitarian grounds. First off, Phoebus, there's no such thing as Christian morality. It doesn't exist, right? There are hundreds, perhaps thousands of interpretations of what Christian morality is. Assuming you're a Christian, I don't know, but what morality Christians practice today around the world is nothing at all like the morality Christians practiced 1,000 years ago. Pick up any history book at
slavery is cool in Christianity.
Like absolutely, explicitly cool. And if you don't even have to actually go to like the actual words of the Bible. Just look how Christians have behaved, Christian societies in thousands of years. Christians like love nothing more than killing other people for worshiping the same God the wrong way. There was no issue too small that they would not raise a sword and take you down with it. That's other Christians. Forget other non-believers. Like they spread. Why do you think Christianity is the largest religion on earth? Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because the Holy Spirit just spread Jesus's word, not taking it to the Western Hemisphere? It took 1,500 years, by the way, 1,500 years of people living without God before the sword took Christianity over there. The only reason Christianity was the most popular religion in Europe was because the Roman Empire adopted it in the 4th century, and guess what? Spread it by the sword. This is insanity. And also, to finish my thought, there's no atheistic morality either. Atheism has no code of ethics.
Even less atheistic morality.
Right, yeah, there's nothing there at all. It's just like atheism is just, I don't believe a God exists. Where you go from there is up to you. Ironically, the same can be said for Christianity. I believe the Christian God exists. The Christians that exist today don't resemble the Christians from 150 years ago, let alone 1,500 years ago. But we're getting off track here. What are we doing here? Okay, hold on. Let me, this is
it says obey your master, not praising slavery, but it gives
that says more than that.
It gives specific rules for how to treat your slaves, how much a slave can be sold for. It never mentions that that's wrong at no point. Now you might make the argument, TJ, that Jesus, by just extrapolation of his do unto others as you would do unto me, would be against slavery. And that is very true. And that is why I always say the existence of an all-knowing, all-good, omnipotent God is not possible with Jesus and the Old Testament, because they're clearly two different people with two entirely different worldviews. Again, I don't want to pick on you, Phoebus, because
I do.
Okay, that's fine. Phoebus also had a good comment here, because he said God also raised numerous enemies to spite Israel and Judea because they were acting dumb, and he did do that. But Jesus would turn the other cheek. So it doesn't make sense that they're the same person who are always right all of the time and cannot be wrong. It just, there's a very clear difference in how they treat human conflict.
God, that last comment, insane. God rose up other armies to smite Israel because they were acting dumb. You know what God also did? He told Israel to smite entire populations for existing, for being there. He told them
to commit genocide. He made them commit genocide.
Yeah. They were worshiping the wrong God, or the people were being immoral. Assuming that's a death sentence or whatever, fine. Take that for whatever you want. That doesn't justify the killing of every civilian man, woman, child, animal, elderly person wiped off the face of the earth. There's no morality there. And saying, oh, well, God, where did the comment go? It was, oh my God, those were laws for the ancient state of Israel, not applicable to Christians. Was it fucking moral for God to say, hold on, was it fucking moral for God to say, you may buy your slaves from foreign lands? Was it moral for God to say, you can own foreigners for their entire lives? Their children will be your property. Was it moral or was it not? Second question, is Jesus God? Because if Jesus is God, Jesus fucking said it too. So I just know this insanity that, it's actually pretty moral and the slavery wasn't really slavery. Go to hell. Well, doesn't exist. If it was, go there. Okay, I'm just tired of this nonsense of people trying to equivocate and dance around. Well, God told they don't even know what it fucking says. There's 3 types of slaves in the Bible. You can own foreigners forever. They're yours, not indentured servitude. Hebrew males you could own for 6 years, set them free after the 7th year. Hebrew females, sex slaves, by the way, very clear, very obvious sex slaves. You could own them forever too. I'm sick of this shit. We gotta move on. I can do an hour on this guy.
For those who are unaware, this is an episode where we haven't talked in a week. And we essentially were like, should we have topics? And we're like, there's going to be too much to talk about. We're not going to be able to stay on topic. And so we just intentionally were like, yeah, we're just going to go off the rails. And this is what off the rails looks like. But this is like the kind of, like, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah,
we have these fights so much. And it's okay. It's okay. I appreciate Phoebus for watching the show and commenting.
This fucking coward. No, he's a coward. This guy. No, listen.
I know. Okay, you're being a little bit hard. I think anyone who's going to come and state their opinion, he's doing it in good faith. He's not being a dick. I appreciate.
No, listen. No, like, I notice this, folks. I want you to notice this. Whenever you point this out, what was the question I asked? Was it moral for God to say you can own people? You can buy them, own them forever, own their children. Was it moral? This bitch-ass answer is by far the most moral law that existed at the time. Well, bully for him. I'm so glad that God had higher morals than Bronze Age society. Wow, this is Jesus Christ. This is God Almighty we're talking about. And the best you can do is compare him to primitive people who didn't know what the sun was, didn't know the germ theory of disease, threw virgins into volcanoes to stop a famine. That's what you're comparing God to? Is it moral or is it not? You can't answer it because you know the answer is no. You know the answer of owning people as property, selling women into sex slavery, burning your daughter at the stake because she wasn't a virgin when she got married. Wildly barbaric, wildly immoral. So you can't compare stoning people to death
for any reason. It's and here's the thing, TJ. What argument Phoebus is making here? It's completely contradictory to the concept of objective morality.
It is.
If God says something is good, that cannot change. Yep. He is infallible. He exists at all time constantly in every moment. He exists 1,000 years from now, he exists 1,000 years in the past, and he exists right now, all at the same time, being all-knowing of everything that is going to happen, everything that did happen, and everything that is happening now. He knows that morality is objective. It cannot change over time. It is not relative in the mind of God because time doesn't exist for God, right? It does not move linearly for him. So why would he give clearly immoral instructions of how to treat slaves instead of just saying slavery is wrong?
Yep.
And if you're going to say, oh, well, that was just rules at the time, and I will agree with you. I will agree that, yes, that is in there because it was a more moral way of doing things at the time from a human perspective, but then it's not coming from fucking God. And if you're going to pick and choose which parts of the Bible were relative to human morality at the time and which parts of the Bible are just God's forever commandment, now suddenly it's you're being subjective. It's just what you want to believe and what you don't. You no longer are actually arguing in good faith that this is objective reality. You have to accept the good and the bad if you want to do that. And if you're not going to do that, suddenly your interpretation is a choice.
Yeah.
You do not have to believe a word of it.
No, yeah, it's not. The Bible is either the word of God or it's not. Those are the only two options, right? And if you want to say, a lot of folks try saying this, well, some parts are the word of God and some parts are. How do you know what is what? How do you know you can't? Other Christians would disagree with you. People who they're not the real Christians, I know, but trust me, people who believe in Christianity more than you believe in anything would disagree with you. And it's just so fucking cowardly. I can't stand it that you ask them very plain questions. Is this moral? Is it not? Well, it's better than what most people were 3,000 years ago. Great. I don't care. Is it moral or not? And they don't want to answer. All right, let's move on to Ted Cruz.
Wait, one more thing. I'm sorry. Again, we're picking on you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're giving us this fodder. But I think everything God created was good. I think God uses evil action to get a more perfect result. Again, this completely negates the concept of God being all-powerful. If God was all-powerful, he would not need to use evil actions to get there is no more perfect result. There's only a perfect result. He's incapable of doing anything that isn't perfect. If he did the thing, it is not evil. If he genocided the entirety of the human race except for 2 fucking people, that was a good action. He cannot take evil actions. It's only good. He took the best possible action in that moment. And if you're telling me the only way to reset the world was to kill everyone, and that's the God you want to believe in, Jesus fucking Christ, I could think of 18,000 better ways to reset the world than mass genocide of the entire human race. Whatever. Anyway, TJ, what do you want to talk about?
All right. Well, one more clip of Ted Cruz here. Let's go. We were talking about that 20 minutes ago, but here, let's go.
I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel?
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli.
Did you know that, John? Did you know that AIPAC is comprised of human beings? That it's not just some entity that, exists outside of time and space or something that creates money out of thin fucking air, but it's
wild, TJ. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm so glad Ted Cruz is here to explain how this worked for us. That's kind of wild. Let's get back to him.
So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship and relationship.
Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Great.
And I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective. Like there are folks online who are in the.
All right, Ted Cruz wants you to believe 2 things. One, that AIPAC is very important. It is crucial that we don't criticize AIPAC. It is very influential, and to make sure that we keep this relationship strong. And also, it's not terribly powerful. There's really nothing there. I don't really know how he's trying to square that circle.
Why is he accepting their money if they're not effective?
Yeah. If they're so shitty at raising money and they don't represent the interest of Israel, why is it of grand importance that he keeps this relationship strong? Kind of suspicious, if you ask me.
Or effective, like there are folks online who are in the fever swamp of terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC.
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all. You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No, not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
It's
when was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. Let me go back and give a little.
All right, folks, let's do a little pool here. Let's do a little gambling here. Who wants to bet money that Ted Cruz can name one? He says all the time. And Tucker is ready for it. Name one, just one. Let's hear it. Let's hear one time that AIPAC stood against the interests of Netanyahu. I'd love to hear an example of that.
And this is why Ted Cruz is just not up for this, because the moment that Tucker Carlson said, "Oh, really?" every alarm bell should have been screaming in Ted Cruz's brain. Shit, I'm walking into a trap. What? He's clearly been dog walking me this whole time. He just went, "Oh, really?" Because he knows he's setting me up. Maybe I should try to zig instead of zag. Nope, he just walks right the fuck into it. This was a prepared question. When's the last time AIPAC lobbied for something in opposition to the Israeli government? Name one time. I can name one time. Actually, no, I can't. Utterly incredible.
It is kind of weird because Tucker Carlson says, "Is AIPAC lobbying for a foreign government?" And he says no. And it's like, what does AIPAC stand for? It's the American Israeli Political Action Committee. And then he says, so it doesn't lobby for Israel? I don't know how you can answer no to that question. Like, even if you were a big supporter of it, well, clearly, I mean, it's in the name. That's what it's there for. I don't know. It seemed like an odd way to answer it. I don't know what Tucker Carlson could have said other than, "Oh, really?" Because that's a stupid ass answer.
By the way, Phoebus did give an answer to this question. He said, "I bet AIPAC is pretty pro-LGBT. See, I named one. Doubt BB's too much of a fan of Pride. I also doubt BB's too much of a fan of Pride, but BB is not Israel. Also, well, it's in the interest of Israel for Americans to think that Israel is pro-LGBT. They clearly use it in their propaganda. It is very much aligned with the Israeli government to make Americans at least think that they are the most pro-LGBT country in the Middle East, which they probably are."
I mean, I don't is Benjamin Netanyahu purporting policies that are anti-LGBT? I've never heard it. I mean, Israel.
I know that there have been. I don't want to speak to anything. I know that there is conflict with LGBT. I remember reading something about how when they started using that in the wake of the Hamas attacks remember they were just sending the gay soldiers and the women out and they're making the videos and stuff. And that was a very new thing in Israel. But it's admittedly way better than any other fucking Middle Eastern country. I'm
Look,
sure.
I mean,
it is a point of conflict in Israel.
I would like to know a policy that AIPAC raised money for that was an LGBT cause that goes directly against a policy Netanyahu has. I mean, I'd like to know. If someone can point it out, I'd hear. But I bet they're pro-LGBT. No, sorry, that's not good enough for me. Okay, let's.
Prime Minister Netanyahu.
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets. No. I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government, and I don't. It's not.
No.
It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay, and it's not has nothing to do with the foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay, but it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all. And if
it's not true.
No.
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
No idea. I imagine some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC because AIPAC's not nearly strong enough.
Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure.
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including Israel.
But AIPAC are Americans. They're not Israelis.
Hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah,
and
because what you're saying is false.
Why aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
A lot of circular talking right there, but yeah, that was just funny. My favorite part of that is when it's early in it, when Tucker says that, or Ted Cruz says that, I don't know why you're getting all flustered, and Tucker Carlson accurately says, actually, no, you're the one who seems kind of nervous here. Why are you acting so nervous about this question? Which is honestly straightforward. Hey, is AIPAC a foreign lobby? No, that's a ridiculous answer. What are you talking about? Why isn't it? Why are you not saying it's a foreign lobby when it openly says this is what we're doing? We're trying to strengthen relations with a foreign nation. And how come it doesn't register as a foreign lobby? Two decent, honest questions like that. If it weren't a tricky, uncomfortable situation for Cruz, he should just be able to answer honestly, but he can't.
Yeah, no. This is one of those moments where, Tucker did a great job, but he missed opportunities to go for the kill, because when Ted Cruz says, if you're lobbying for more, trade between America and Mexico, you're definitely talking with both governments. And yeah, you would be lobbying both governments. AIPAC doesn't lobby the Israeli government. If their goal is to strengthen the relationship between Israel and America, and they make no attempt to change Israel to be more in line with America, and they only attempt to change America to be more in line with Israel, the only possible outcome is that they end up lobbying on behalf of the Israeli government, because there's only one way to get them aligned if you're only lobbying one side, and that's to get America to agree with Israel. That is the natural conclusion of that line of reasoning. And so if you're going to say, oh, well, that's okay, as long as they have this reasoning behind what they're doing, they don't have to register as a foreign lobbyist, that's fine. But then that applies to every single fucking country in the world. Why do we even have a designation for foreign lobbies? And I would even maybe agree that shouldn't fucking matter. That's fine, but it doesn't make sense to call one a ball and one a strike.
Yeah, it does. And I honestly, I really don't get it. I don't understand the squirrelishness right there. We're saying, yeah, AIPAC. I mean, I get, if I was a politician and I was taking millions of dollars from anybody, I wouldn't be gloating about it, right? That's not something I'd want to do. I got that part. But when you admit, yes, they raise money for me, I mean, being, cautious and hesitant when explaining what they do is a bad sign. That just looks awful. Just make something up, or pick something innocuous that they raise funds for and have that ready to go, especially when you're going to someone who's antagonistic towards this cause or whatever. But it's, Ted Cruz is not necessarily one of the best performing. Ted Cruz is good at raising up the rabble, like the rube, the hoi polloi, the unwashed masses that populate the Republican Party. I don't know if you, what did he say when there were some health regulations, and he was like, the Democrats trying to take your steaks away. And he stood out with a bunch of construction workers and saying, Joe Biden wants to take away my beer. He can kiss my ass. He does all that stuff. But once he goes up to someone with a double-digit IQ, he falls apart pretty quickly. And watching him, debase himself for Donald Trump after all the shit Trump did to him when he first ran for office, immediately lost respect for the guy. He's got nothing ahead of him. I mean, look, can't shit on him too much. He did become United States Senator. That's a hell of a lot more than most people get. So, but he's just not ready for the bigger leagues, and he's going to stay where he is.
The one thing I will say I respect about Ted Cruz is that there's some, I'm going to make a sports analogy here. Mm-hmm. There's some quarterbacks that get into the league, get drafted, they become the starter. It doesn't work out because they're just not good enough. Mm-hmm. And then they just flame out. They fizzle out. They're no longer playing football. Then there's quarterbacks who get drafted in the league, they become a starter, and they realize they're not good enough, but they could live for the next 12 years making $5 million a year to play backup quarterback, and they do it. And that's what Ted Cruz has realized. He's realized, I'm not here for the prime time. I can't compete. I'm just going to latch my ship to a stronger ship and follow in their wake. And to his credit, that's exactly what he should be doing in politics. That is the height of his ability. He has recognized that, and good for you, Ted Cruz, and your family. to recognize your own fallibility, and that if you try to fly too close to the sun, you're going to get burned.
You know, if I were to compliment Ted Cruz, this is like compliment your enemies day. I think, yeah, it might as well.
It really is. Yeah. When your enemies fight, it's you see the good parts of that.
Yeah, I do have to admit that. So when I was a kid, I remember I was a pretty like politically nerdy kid. I was all into the shit and everything. And shocking, I know, right? But I remember learning in the late 90s, early 2000s that there had been no American president with a beard. I mean, still the case. We haven't had an American president with a beard since I think Benjamin Harrison, like 1870s or something like that, or 1880s. And you didn't see politicians with beards either. If you think back to the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, no politicians had beards. They didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. I remember Michael Steele when he ran for governor, or I can't remember I think it was somewhere in Illinois, but he had a mustache. And I remember that being a big deal. So, that's the first politician I've seen with a mustache ever, honestly. And Ted Cruz, I don't know what, 6-7 years ago or whatever, he kind of forged the path for politicians wearing beards, because he didn't have a beard until very recently, after 2016. So maybe 2018, 2020, somewhere around there, he grew a beard. Now you see them all the time. Now politicians have beards all over the place. He was one of the first to go out there and try to break that tradition, because people didn't have beards because studies show that voters were less likely to trust men with beards. That's just how it was for a long time. Now it's not the case. But you know what, Ted Cruz, good for forging the path that way. I commend you.
That is an interesting change. Like it's not just politics. It's changed like in all of society. Like politics, like the politicians kind of
they caught up.
We're second. They caught up. But like when I was growing up as a kid in like the 2000s, the 90s, you didn't see like my dad shaved every fucking day.
Yeah.
He couldn't have a beard at his work. And it's not like he worked, at like fucking Goldman Sachs or something. Like, he's an insurance salesman. But it was just like, yeah, you have to shave every single day. That's gone off the fucking, like, I've never even heard. Because like when I started wearing the beard, my dad was like, you're allowed to wear that at your job? I'm like, yeah. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? No one complains about this. Really big 180 we did as a society there. And Phoebus said, if you follow the analogy, doesn't that make Trump a superstar quarterback? Odd praise, laugh out loud.
More dumb questions. I wish I could give a trophy to this guy for dumb questions. Yeah. Oh, sorry, John, go ahead.
Yeah. He
obviously. What a stupid fucking question.
He won the presidency twice. Again, people. This is actually a problem I had. Like on. And again, this isn't like Phoebus necessarily. But like a lot of people, when I praised Tucker Carlson for his tactics, they were like, we're not about to forgive Tucker Carlson for all this shit he did. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, guys.
No one's forgiving
bad
anyone.
People can do things well. And when they do things well, we should emulate them in order to accomplish good things, right? It's something that a lot of people struggle with. Like, this is not an attack on Phoebus personally. This is so many people on both sides of the aisle struggle with the concept that a bad person can do good things and a good person can do bad things. It's weird. It's weird because I feel like there's a lot of fucking children's movie that teach that moral. But no, this is that's the case. However, I will say if Donald Trump was a quarterback, he would be Eli Manning. New York.
New York?
Not actually very skilled, but he won 2 Super Bowls. He gets
the job done when he needs to. Yeah,
exactly. Clearly has relatives who are way better and more talented than him, but he's the one who won the 2 Super Bowls. So here we are. If I were to say which quarterback he is, it's Eli Manning.
That's great. Donald Trump is Eli Manning. Oh God. The Democratic Party is Tom Brady. They have a great track record. They go up against Eli. Done. It's over. And so
they're not Tom Brady, please. That's not giving them that much credit.
All right. Or I guess
TJ, I want to do a whole segment on comparing politicians to NFL players now. Oh my God.
You know who Tom Brady would be? It'd be female politicians. I hate saying that. That is because that's the one Trump beat, And so,
Hillary Clinton. But like Tom Brady.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's good.
Consistently for a long time. I guess you could make the Biden case. I don't know.
I guess
he still won in his old age. But it's just that
we should do this. We should do this. Like try to name politicians and what.
If I can come up with enough good comparisons, we'll do a tier list.
What athlete they remind us of. All right. But yeah, no. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yes, people do that a lot. Well, two things. You're correct. We complain about it on the show all the time that people have a hard time recognizing skill in someone they don't like or someone who's supposed to be bad. When I say
Yeah.
that Trump is legitimately
They do
funny,
that in sports all the time too, by the
yeah,
way.
sports too.
Like,
Yeah, that's true. How I talk about Donald Trump is he's not a great speaker, but he's an excellent communicator in that he rallies crowds like he does. He's amazing at it. He's actually funny. One of the funniest people I've ever seen, and probably the funniest politician I've ever seen. We often say he's the only funny conservative comedian. He's great at it. But then you say this to folks, and they say, "Oh, well, listen, look who likes Trump." And I say, "No, we're just recognizing reality here." It's kind of, but what he said was stupid. Just because a lot of people say it doesn't make it any less dumb. But all right, speaking of Donald Trump, John, have you heard that he seems to be interested in starting a brand new war? Have you heard about this?
I have heard about this, TJ. And before we get into it, I have a take I just want to get off here because I thought about it like 5 minutes before we started the show.
Okay.
And ever since then, I've convinced myself of it more.
All right.
I don't think Donald Trump really cares either way about what's happening. But I think that the main reason that he's been so waffly on whether we are entering this war or not is because he wanted an excuse to leave the G7 summit. I think that he saw the opportunity to say, "Oh, there's an emergency. We might be at war with Iran. I gotta go back. See you guys later. I'm gonna go play golf." It's probably not the entire reason, but it's probably a way more significant portion of it than anyone would actually want to believe.
That's great. I love that. I love thinking of like funny or hilarious reasons for or funny or hilarious circumstances in tragic situations.
Yes.
Like those are my favorite. Those are my absolute favorite. I love it so much. And Donald Trump brings the world like 3 continents on the brink of war because he's in a boring Teams meeting. That is something that is kind of funny. I do like that. This is a topic we're probably not going to get to. We only have like 20 minutes of show left. So before we go into the Iran thing, the shooting, we haven't talked about it once. The shooting in Minnesota, we haven't talked about it.
It's all news. It disappeared. It's a wild thing. Let's again. It's a legitimate assassination attempt on a senator, and it's just like
a successful one on a congressperson. That's the guy. What's his name? Belter, I think. Vance Belter is his name, or Boltler. I'm not sure how to say it.
Something
but
like that.
Yeah, shot 4 people in one day, killed 2 of them, is arrested, and now he's locked up and everything. But watching, I don't know if you saw Senator Mike Lee talking about how they pulled up the fact that he was on some advisory board, this governor appointed advisory board for business workforce development. Have you ever seen that?
By
Tim Walz?
Yeah. Like I know that like Waltz appointed him to something. And been using that as an attack angle, be like, this guy's a Democrat.
Yeah, he was.
Which, by the way, I just want to say, does not matter. It does not matter if this guy's a Democrat or Republican or anything.
Yeah.
The political climate that we are in as a result of the fascist regime is what creates the violence. It doesn't matter whether it's on the left or the right. And if you're going to be like, oh, well, you're just saying that to defend the people on the left, look at the fucking statistics throughout all fucking time. It's way more on the right. I guarantee.
Yeah. And so when it came out that he had shot these 4 people, 2 Democratic state representatives in Minnesota, immediately Republicans started saying, well, we dug into the records and this guy was appointed by Tim Walz to this this no-name committee where he didn't even meet the guy. He just worked with other business owners. Turns out he was appointed by the previous governor who was a Republican, which is very funny that he was appointed by the Republican first and then just reappointed by Walz and everything. But what I think should happen is that, because Republicans are running with this, it's nonsense. The guy, have you seen the clips of him preaching in church, talking about how, there's clips of him. He was an evangelical Christian, and there's all these clips of him saying how these people don't even know their gender anymore. They're crazy and all that stuff. And he had all these anti-abortion stances. The guy was crazy, right-wing evangelical. But the cops arrested him alive. If I were him, and I was in jail, I would immediately start my defense by saying, I've been meeting with Tim Walz in secret for years now to do this. I would just go out and I would lay all in on the conspiracy just to tarnish the Democrats in any way I can, because the conspiracy-addled fucking idiots that on the right wing are like, I knew it, I know it the whole time. Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't do that, I'm actually going to be disappointed in him. I'm actually going to be pretty sad if he doesn't do that, because he might as well.
Yeah, I actually think, because you might, like, he's just a crazy person, right? And this attack was actually like decently well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it seemed to be like he was gonna, again, not that well thought out, because like if the plan was to then go use the protests as camouflage, he would have committed the murders way later, so then he could slip into the actual protest. Like, again, this is what I say. It's actually shocking. I feel. Have you ever heard the Fermi paradox?
Yeah.
So the Fermi paradox is, why have we not met alien life? Is it because it's so rare for life to exist in the first place? We are past that great barrier that it's very impossible for it to happen again? Or is there something that stops races, species from getting to the point where they are advanced enough for interstellar travel, right? And we don't know. But that's what I feel like with these assassins. Like, there keeps being more of them, and they're all just crazy people who can't really think these things through too well or plan so much. But if it wasn't a crazy person and was someone who actually did plan things out and think it through, they could do a hell of a lot of fucking damage immediately, and probably for a sustained period of time. And I'm shocked that it's never happened before. Like a sustained campaign of terror on whatever. Of just one guy going out there and assassinating people. It can't possibly be all that difficult.
No,
and yet here we are.
No, I thought about this too, John. That
I've been thinking about this since as a kid.
Yeah,
like, it's insane.
It's when you consider how many we talk about the gun violence problem in the United States and how it's like worse than any other comparable nation and stuff. But when you consider the amount of firearms we have, which shocking leads to more firearm deaths, like surprise, surprise, and how insane this place is and how politically fractious this is, I am amazed we don't have more, not just political assassinations, but just murders all the time. Like, it's actually shocking to me that it's not higher than it is. By all rights, it should be. It's an incredible job we've had of keeping this together. I mean, it seems to be falling apart recently, but yeah, I could talk a lot about the Fermi paradox. I could talk a lot about that.
We'll have a whole episode on the Fermi
whole episode
paradox.
on that. Yeah, because I got a big theory on that. But all right, back to the war in Iran. So I don't know if you've seen this clip, but this is a clip on Fox News talking about Iran and their nuclear weapons program. And those of you who weren't around in 2002 to watch the lead up to the Iraq war, I shit you not, it looked exactly, and I mean exactly like this.
Exclusive satellite images revealing the location of a previously unknown Iranian nuclear site. Now, the facility spans nearly 2,500 acres, and this is a big discovery. Jillian Turner has more from the State Department. Good morning, Jillian.
Pretty explosive, Dana. These satellite images that we have obtained exclusively show the alleged site location and even the layout of the secret, previously unknown nuclear weapons facilities inside Iran. The National Council of Resistance of Iran has collected intelligence from sources on the ground inside Iran that locate this nuclear weapons facility in what is called Semnan province, far from the regime's already known nuclear sites. It's codenamed the Rainbow Site by Iran's official.
John, I just thought of something. Did I share this yesterday on the show?
You did. I wasn't going to stop you. I thought you were maybe going somewhere with it, but no,
wait a minute. I had deja vu. I was like, hold on. I forgot that I shared that. Like halfway through, I realized that. For those of you who didn't see it, that is how the lead up to the Iraq war looked like in 2002. I saw a great post, someone talk about this, how the writers for this episode of, the United States of America are getting lazy. They're reusing the same plot lines and just changing one letter. They're changing the Q to an N and then just kind of rolling with it and see if we notice. But yeah, the lead up to this is kind of scary, but that's the wrong clip. I'm so mad about that. I had a clip with Sean Hannity talking about this. And so go ahead, John. I'll try to find it.
I'm trying to find that. But yeah, it stuns me that we went through this. I said this yesterday, but just like, I'll play this clip real quick. This is a clip that CNN had where they put together just through the years, Bibi talking about how Iran is imminently about to acquire a nuke.
Oh,
it's really cool. Like it shows just how blatant and obvious these lies are, that they're just being repeated over and over and over again. but I'll play it here.
The deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, we will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months, less than a year.
Yeah, it's rough, TJ. It's rough that we've experienced this repeatedly, over and over again. We had a whole war. We fought it. We all realized it was wrong. We all realized we were lied to. And here we are again, the same people lying to us, not even as good this time. I saw a great quote, a great thread from Corey. What's his name? He's been a guest many times. The guy that does the history. Corey Bradford. That does the history skits. And he was like, this is like Hollywood trying to remake a movie from the 2000s, but just doing it shittier again. Yeah. Like that's exactly what this is. It's just the same exact playbook drunkenly recited to us. I don't know how actual real human adults are falling for it again.
Yeah, it is kind of funny that this happened because, John, I'm sure they're right this time, though. I know that for 30 years now, they've been saying the exact same thing, that any moment now, Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon. We got to do something because we can't let this happen, folks. Can you imagine the damage they would do with a nuclear bomb? I mean, we can't take this threat too lightly here.
So, ironically, is the only nation that has ever done damage with a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, and like I don't know, a hot take here, John, but not only do I not care if Iran gets a nuclear bomb, I don't care at all. I hope they do. Gotta say, I hope they do. Because listen, I think it's been pretty clear that we've seen over the last 70 years now that the only way major powers don't go to war with each other is because of the nuclear threat. Now, optimally, I would say no nuclear weapons. Like, honestly, that I would rather that, but that's not going to happen. That the only deterrent I've seen to stop, like, ask Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein, what happens when you have no nuclear? Why do you think North Korea still exists? It's because they have nuclear weapons. Which is why Netanyahu wants to attack Iran before it happens, right? They always say that the threat comes if Iran gets the nuclear weapon. No, the threat goes away. It stops. Because what's the rationale here? Iran gets a nuclear weapon and they're going to drop a bomb on Israel. What happens next? You think people are going to sit around and let that happen? No, like it's a guaranteed threat for their guaranteed protection for that. Once again, this is not defending the Islamic Republic of Iran because I know people want to do that. This is just saying, yeah, if you're going to ask me like what looks more peaceful in my mind, a coalition of the United States and Israel and whoever else we can get on board to attack and start a war with Iran, or Iran getting a nuclear weapon tomorrow morning. Iran getting a nuclear weapon tomorrow morning, that seems like a much better plan to me.
We, without them doing anything to provoke us, straight up assassinated one of their generals.
Yep.
They did nothing. They did nothing at all to provoke us. We did that. And what did they respond with? Nothing. We were a little bit worried they'd respond. They didn't. Honestly, if there's any, there are nations that I trust far less with a nuclear bomb than Iran. Just seeing the amount of restraint that has been shown with all of the bullshit. They still have, have they like actually attacked themselves? Because they always say like, oh, they fund Hezbollah, whatever.
Yeah, they're the world's largest sponsor of terrorism.
Yeah,
that's their
but
favorite
like we
line.
do that too. We do this shit all. We have a documented history of funding and sponsoring terrorist regimes all over the world to fight proxy wars for us. So if that means that Iran cannot be trusted with nuclear weapons, well, gosh darn it, neither should America. That's what I hate about all this, TJ. Like, he's just like, if Israel's going to make the fucking argument that Iran shouldn't have a nuke, they should also not have a nuke. Like, I don't like, it's just the only way you can conceive of this is if Iran is just evil. They're just the evil bad guys and can't be trusted with a nuke. No. And again, they do a lot of terrible shit. Don't get me wrong. So do we.
That really is the argument. Yeah, that really is the argument. Well, they're bad guys, and we can't let bad guys have that. That's it. It doesn't go any deeper than that. And Jean makes a really good point here. Iran doesn't want a nuclear bomb. At least they didn't a week ago. Okay, that's an interesting comment right there, because I know we talk about it every time on the show that if we're going to take the position that we get to decide, we are the final arbiters of who gets nuclear energy, let alone nuclear weapons, who gets nuclear energy and who doesn't. We had a framework for this back in 2012 when Obama signed that wasn't just Obama, by the way. It was Obama, the Iranians, and a bunch of other countries that signed this nuclear pact. They agreed to not enrich uranium above, I think, like 4%. And you need like 90% is considered weapons grade uranium. And they agreed to not enrich it over 4%, allow inspectors they follow the same rules everybody else follows. Trump comes in, tears it to pieces. Over the years, Iran thinks, well, why should I ever do a deal with the United States? I don't blame them. And then they say, we're going to enrich uranium up to 60%. That's where we want it. And they say that they're only doing it for nuclear energy, not for nuclear weapons. And while 90% nuclear enriched uranium at 90% is weapons grade, at 60%, you could possibly create some sort of weak nuclear weapon. And that's the rationale they're going with, saying, look, they get 60%, they're going to make a nuclear weapon, we're going to go for it. Well, first off, you guys had your chance to actually stop this at 56% lower, and you didn't go for it. Plus, if they want to do it, let them do it. I mean, no one's giving me a good argument for this, that, well, I'm sure they're going to use it to kill people and blow them up as if that wouldn't happen in return. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't stand this shit anymore. And it's sickening seeing it's fewer people than it was 20 years ago, but people just ratcheting it up. People like Ted Cruz or Lindsey Graham. And our favorite, this is the clip I meant to show, John. Sorry about the last one right here. This clip I meant to show. This is Sean Hannity. This is really special to me because I would listen to Sean Hannity and watch him back then when he was ramping up to the Iraq War. And once again, same shit as always. Let's see what he has to say. Have you seen this, John? Him talking about our options? Oh, this is a good one.
The way I see it, there are three options. One, Israel could use a tactical nuclear weapon to wipe out the site. They don't have bunker buster bombs. That would obviously be not only highly controversial, but come with massive risks to the region. It is not a good option. Option number two, Israel can send in a team of commandos on the ground. Also very risky with a much lower chance of success. The third best option involves the United States of America, our military, which is equipped with these 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs capable of penetrating that mountain. Israel does not have this critical weapon in its arsenal, and they do not possess the large bombers that are capable of dropping an ordnance of that size. So now President Trump has a decision to make. Will he deliver the final blow to Iran's nuclear program?
All right, John. So which option you going for there? Option one, Israel drops a tactical nuclear strike, as if that's an actual thing. Option two, they send in commandos to destroy nuclear facilities. I'm not sure how that would happen, actually. I'd like to hear the battle plans on how any team of commandos could destroy one, let alone several nuclear facilities. Where would you even start? Or three, get Uncle Sam involved and put an end to this Iran nuclear threat once and for all. What say you, Mr. Cooper?
Yeah, see
the only three options. Only three you got.
Only three options. I can't possibly think of another one. I guess I'm going to go with the nuke, TJ. If those are my only three options, just end it all now. No, it's absurd that we're even at least TJ, at the very least, in 2003, there wasn't like some sort of active diplomatic negotiation currently going on. There was an active diplomatic negotiation going on with another round of talks already on the schedule, and Israel went and did this and preemptively attacked. What the fuck? There has always been. It's actually so much credit to Iran that they're even fucking negotiating still because of how Donald Trump just blew up the last agreement. I don't know why they would even bother, but they're here doing it. And I think it is in their own self-interest. Like, it is in their own self-interest to have a deal with the United States of America of, okay, we're not going to do this, and Israel isn't going to attack us. Like, that's good for everyone involved except Israel. Except Israel, because then they no longer have this bugaboo to go fight. And that's what they want. And it's insane. It's insane that an actual, like, to be Sean Hannity and to do that, to make the decision to know that you have an audience of millions of Americans and say, there's only 3 options on the table. They're all violent war, when clearly there's a diplomatic option on the table. Iran is saying we will keep negotiating right now. And we're just like, no, only 3 options: nukes, commandos, or bunker busters. Just it's childish, TJ. It's childish.
Yeah,
it's irresponsible. He can go burn in hell. Go fuck yourself.
I don't know how he says it with a straight face. I really don't. Like, you would figure, of all people, someone like Sean Hannity who couldn't support he never met a war he didn't like until Donald Trump ran for president. Then, like all the other Republicans, they magically became anti-war, which is particularly offensive if you remember what they used to be like, which we all should be. It wasn't that long ago that if you spoke out against any action in Iraq, if you criticized any brutality or torture from the United States government, United States military, you were called a coward. Your patriotism was questioned. Your manhood was questioned. Your masculinity, your strength, your love for America, your respect for the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces. All of that was called into question to cartoonish lengths. The congressional cafeteria changed French fries to freedom fries and French toast to freedom toast because France wouldn't send soldiers to support this stupid, absurd war. The Republicans spent the better part of a decade doing it. Cindy Sheehan, now, if you guys remember, she lost her son in the Iraq war and went around with Code Pink protesting the war. They called her a traitor. They called her a coward. They called her a tool of the radical left. No shame at all. Turned on a dime. The second Donald Trump said, Bush led us into these disastrous wars, they all flipped and said, oh, we've been anti-war this whole time. In fact, we should probably let Russia just take over Ukraine. Just let Russia invade Ukraine and do whatever they want. We're so anti-war. If Russia attacks anybody, we can't do anything about it. That's how anti-war we are. And then now that, Netanyahu...
Iran does nothing. They don't attack anyone, but they have to be attacked because they could be developing nuclear weapons the same way they could have been for the past 25 fucking years.
Yeah, it's insanity. Like the balls on these people to say something like this. I don't know how they sleep. You got to be a particular type of psycho to do this type of stuff. I don't know. I would show some shame. I would show a little bit of shame. Okay, maybe I fucked up on the last one. Here's why it's different. But if I said the exact same thing, it kind of give me pause. But it doesn't bother these folks nearly as much. And I know how they do it, John. I don't know.
It is very upsetting. I've often thought to myself, before this, how insufferable would I have been if I was doing this back then during the invasion of Iraq?
Yeah,
and, I would have been so insufferable. I would have lost relationships in my life over that shit. And I'm like, fuck. They're doing
now you know. Now you're gonna know.
They're doing Invasion of Iraq 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yep.
And it's, oh my god, it's I do hope that we don't do it because of the countless loss of human life, primarily, but also just I'm not looking forward to the shit I'm gonna have to go through if we invade fucking Iran. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I don't want to have to be a conscientious objector, TJ. I don't want to have to do this, TJ. It wasn't. I don't want to do it. I will. I have to.
Yeah,
you're old. You don't have to worry about
I'm good. Yeah, I'm done. I'm out. I don't think it would come to that. I don't think that. Like I said, if Trump did take action against Iran, it's obviously the first it's going to start is like the way it is now. It's just supporting Israel. We back Israel in their excursions into foreign lands, and they can bomb as much as we want. We'll give them as much money to do it as they want. We'll give them weapons. We'll give them aircraft. We'll give them bombs if they need them. I think that our military involvement would, like we said yesterday, be limited mostly to drone, airstrike, stuff like that. Because the American people could stomach that. It's far enough away, and it's money they don't really see. And, people killed by drones don't really count. That's not actually warfare. So I think that's how it started. As bad as it's gotten, then again, I should probably not say this with Trump still as president. I can't imagine him enacting the draft to go fight Iran. We didn't do it for Iraq of all places. So if that happens, yeah, I'll quit the show. I don't think so. I think you're safe, John. I think you're good. You're not going anywhere.
So we're wrapping up here, but I want to address two of these comments. So
sure.
First, Kyle with an absolute banger. I think it's very inappropriate you guys are showing Handy gargle Netanyahu's balls like that live on YouTube. yeah.
Sorry, content strike coming.
We might get a content strike for that one. And then Phoebus makes the argument. Phoebus, you are so excellent at just like throwing up all the bad arguments for us. Like, I want you to keep doing this. It makes this show easier. Phoebus says, don't attack anybody. You realize Iran has been the cause of hundreds of thousands of deaths in Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq. How do you just ignore that? Forget Israel. Iran is worse for Arabs. Phoebus, I want you to look up for me, the amount of deaths that were caused by our invasion of Iraq. It's also hundreds of thousands of deaths caused by the United States of America. And if you're framing this like either we commit to a war against Iran or we just allow them to keep doing all this shit. No, that's not how it fucking works. That's not how it works. If you want to create regime change, you aren't going to do so through military force. We have tried this over, and did it work in fucking Iraq? No, it didn't. Did it work in any other Middle Eastern country where we have tried forcible regime change? Did it make that country so much better? No, it fucking didn't. Like, isn't the current state of Iran because we attempted regime change in Iran? Am I wrong about that, TJ?
Essentially, yeah. Basically, yeah.
Can you tell that story for me real quick? Because I'm kind of forgetting exactly what happened there.
Yeah, so the Iranians elected Mohammad Mossadegh in 1953, and he tried to nationalize Iran's oil. And it was a puppet state of Britain at the time. And the British, who owned British Petroleum, and British Petroleum was stealing all of Iran's oil, and they had, ironically, nationalized British Petroleum. So all of Iran's oil profits were going to the British government. Mohammad Mossadegh, or maybe it was 53 or 58, Mossadegh was elected, and he had the wild idea that the oil in the country of Iran should actually belong to the people of Iran. So we nationalized it for the country of Iran. Now, this is after World War II, and Britain had lost a lot of their firepower. They didn't have the muscle to actually take the oil fields back. So they went crying to Uncle Sam, President Eisenhower specifically, and told them, hey, listen, it's not fair that the Iranians are keeping their oil and the profits from it. And by the way, he nationalized the industry, which sounds a lot like communism to me. And they said, holy shit, we can't let that happen. And the CIA toppled Mossadegh, not making this up, not left-wing conspiracy. They admit it. You can find the paperwork. They show you how they did it. They toppled Mossadegh and installed the Shah of Iran, who was in charge for the next 20 years or so. But the people of Iran rebelled against the puppet dictator we put in place with the Shah, who was just, doing what Western governments told them to do. And then we got the Islamic Caliphate that took over in 1979, and we've been at odds with them ever since. That's how it's happened, because we wouldn't let them have a secular, democratically elected leader who happened to be a little bit left-wing. We put in a dictatorship instead, and now we have an Islamic Republic. Good job, guys. Congratulations. Great work, Brad. Medals all around.
And the lesson we're supposed to take from this is let's do it again.
Let's do it all over again. I'm sure it'll work.
There are ways of influencing foreign governments to do what you want. Coups are not one of them. It has never fucking worked. It sometimes works in the short term. It has never worked in the long term. Anyway, TJ, anything else you
Fantastic.
want to talk about before we wrap up today?
I don't think so. I think we had a hell of a show right there. It didn't go like, I don't know. I thought it was amazing. I thought that was some of our best work, folks. I enjoyed it a lot.
That was some. I always enjoy the Jess, John, and TJ talking for 2-hour shows. Somehow it's actually incredible we managed to fill the time and still feel like there's more to discuss.
Yeah.
But we will be discussing more. So if you watched all the way through to this point, thank you very much. Either for our live stream, which we do every we're gonna just restart that. We're gonna restart that because this is the clip we play at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching to the end of this point. Either if you are watching this video on YouTube or you are watching our live stream, which is also on YouTube from 6:30 to 8:30, usually on Thursdays. This one happened to be on Wednesdays. You got to watch every week to know when we're live. And if you do that, if you want to know when, make sure to subscribe so you know when we're going live. And you can be here in the comments like Phoebus, hopefully not getting shit on the whole time. Anyway, TJ, you got any messages for our audience here?
Yes, thank you very much, John. Folks, feel free and please join us twice a week and join us in our never-ending quest to help Iran acquire a nuclear weapon. All praise to the Ayatollah. We will catch you guys next Tuesday. Have a good one. Good game.